You're listening to the Empowered Divorce Podcast, where you practice being the chooser in your life again, one day at a time. Thanks for joining me. Hello, my amazing, beautiful listeners. How are you? Thank you for joining the conversation today. And I am having a conversation with one of my dear friends and special guest, Sarah Morales. Sarah is known as the gaslighting expert. I'm having her join a two-part conversation. I did split our conversation up into 2 episodes. I think keeping the episodes a little bit more digestible can be helpful. We do address a lot in our conversation. This week, we're talking a lot about gaslighting behaviors in general and what you may have experienced. And really, we want to validate the experiences that you all have had in your past relationships and potentially still experiencing in your relationship with your ex, those gaslighting behaviors. I wanted to slow this conversation down because before we get into self-gaslighting, I think it's really important we talk about the importance of recognizing what that looked like in your relationship. And so at the end, I'm going to give you a couple journal prompts to take advantage of to help cultivate more of that awareness between now and next week's episode when we get into more of the self-gaslighting. Those are going to be in the show notes. I really hope these next 2 episodes are helpful. I'm going to get right into it. Here is my conversation with Sarah. Well, it's funny. I was going to hit record and just start ranting about this and bringing it up. And I was like, well, why would I do this by myself when I have incredible access to an expert?
Yeah, you do.
So I just text. And yes, I'm very, very lucky to have you in my life and have your brain be willing to let me pick. I really do appreciate you coming on. Just as a reminder, you did, for those who have been with me for a while, Sarah, you were on my podcast. I was looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's been way too long. But I did do an episode with you where you were sharing a little bit of your story. So if those of you who are new or can't remember Sarah's story, where she's coming from and want to hear more, maybe I'll link the old podcast episode we did in the show notes so you can find it quicker. I mention that because I think your story and what you've experienced along the way, not only professionally, but your own personal experience really, really adds to the level of expertise you have in this area.
Yeah.
I think, like, yeah, not only do you know the things, but you live the things. So
Yeah.
I feel like there really is a different level of appreciation that comes when I know my listeners can appreciate that, like, okay, she gets it. Like,
Yeah.
you're not just teaching us, but you get it. And I just wanted to remind my listeners, like, yeah, no, Sarah's the expert, but she gets it.
Yeah. And I mean, if I may, even I'd love to say when it comes to the topic of self-gaslighting or gaslighting ourselves or whatever, I think that's really important to have that information so that when I say something, people know it's not coming from a place of like judgmentalness or I think I just made up a word or anything like that. I know these things because I did these things.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? And so it's like the
Yes.
whole reason why my trademark starts with the word deconstructing is because that's what I had to do myself. I had to deconstruct these things all by myself. I mean, a little bit of help here and there, but really a lot of this gaslighting stuff. I was a pioneer. I did a lot of this stuff myself, and now I've turned it into stuff so other people don't have to do all that work by themselves, right? But that's where I come from, right? It's not from a let's blame the victims, like how dare you gaslight? No, it's like my stuff is called Take Your Power Back. This is how we take our power back, right?
Yes.
This is how we find
Yes.
our authentic self. And so that's the place that I'm coming from. And it's a really important part because if you don't know that, you might hear what I'm saying differently. You might not hear me as a survivor now thriver, right? Like,
Yeah.
you might hear me differently. So thank you for mentioning that because I do think it's important.
It is important. And I know that's why I share so many personal experiences. Hearing hard truths and self-reflecting and seeing where you might need to shift and improve. And this is all part of post-traumatic growth work.
100%.
It takes a level of vulnerability and humility and self-empathy and compassion to be able to look at these pieces and go, oh, this is why I might be stuck. This is why I might
Exactly.
still be. I use the analogy of the rope. We oftentimes pick up that rope that's still attached to our ex. And before we know it, it's wrapped around our throat. We don't understand why. So every time we see these different pieces, these different ropes, and can untangle them, use the word deconstruct. My analogy is like untangle, then you are truly free and can step into that empowerment and that creative part of you to create the life after a life-saving divorce. Yeah, we're going to talk about hard stuff and we're going to pull some stuff out. And right away, this is an episode to watch your body, listen to your body, look for some dysregulation, look for some of the oh shit moment. It's okay. We've been there. We get it. And if you feel very stuck, what we're going to talk about today might help you get unstuck.
Yeah.
I want to talk about and start with some validating, as always, to validate the gaslighting behaviors, the methods, tactics, and techniques, the roles that we get into in your previous relationship, ladies. Like, betrayal comes with a level of abuse. There has to be, to have a reality collapse, there has to be a effing with your reality. There has to be destructive behaviors and abusive behaviors to hide, deflect, deny, all of those things, what your partner was doing. Even if you knew a little bit here, a little bit there, there's a level of unawareness that you didn't know. So let's talk about and validate gaslighting plays into the marriage, the relationship when there's been betrayal. Right away, I'm going to just name off those methods.
Okay, go for it.
So
Pop quiz.
right? Pop quiz. DARVO. Okay. So DARVO is method one, then challenging your reality. And I think you used the word validity, challenge.
I do. Yep. Very good.
Reality and validity of that. And then a bunch of C's, chaos, confusion,
Yes.
and conflict.
Yes. A+.
Okay.
Nice.
So those are the different methods. Okay. Now I'm going to turn over to the experts.
Okay. Yeah. So when we're talking about methods, we're talking about what we would see if we were to take a step back and take in the big picture. And it's interesting because you could look at, I'm thinking about how my partner and I, we did a drive from Texas to Wisconsin this last summer, and we got to stop at a number of amazing museums. In fact, we took a day trip to the Art Institute of Chicago, and we got to go to my favorite, I guess, time frame of art, which is like the Renaissance, right? Like we're talking Renoir and Van Gogh and like all of these beautiful impressionistic art pieces. I could get lost. So the idea is you might take 10 different Renoirs or 10 different Monets, and they're going to have the same kind of style, but they're not going to be exactly the same. And I think that's important to understand about these methods, these big pictures, is what we're looking for is the feel. Like we look for, that's impressionistic painting. I can tell because the type of look that it has, the type of feel that it has is very different than modern, right? So these different methods have different big feelings to them, if you will. And as it pertains to validating people's experiences, I make up that it's not which one did you experience, but which ones and in which different situations. Especially because one of the things, I had this question recently where somebody asked, when a victim, if you will, starts to see some of the gaslighting and they're not, that rope isn't being able to, they're not being able to get tangled by that rope so much anymore, does the gaslighter typically step up what they're doing? And I'm like, unless they're in good recovery and healing, working on themselves, I'm going to say like 9.5 times out of 10, but it's not going to be the same. It's going to be different. Right. Because it's no longer working. What used to work didn't work. And their level of awareness is going to vary, right? Like how conscious they are of trying something new. That's all debatable. That's not as important. It is important, but it's not as important as recognizing that it's happening. Right. For example, maybe they initially used love bombing and diversion, right? To gaslight you, to not ask about therapy or to not ask about this boundary, et cetera, et cetera. And when that's no longer working, they might switch and start playing the victim, right? And when they play the victim, that's going to cause you to feel conflict, right? Because do I choose myself and my needs, or do I show empathy to my person or compassion to my person? And so that goes into that method 3 of the conflict, confusion, and chaos. Like, what do I do here? I'm so conflicted because these are 2 very high values of mine. And side note, we don't have to be conflicted. It's just they're putting in a situation where there is conflict where there doesn't need to be, if they were just honoring our boundary, for example. So does that kind of speak to what you were hoping for validation, or?
Yeah, I think it's great. And where my brain now goes, I love the analogy you use, because what I often see with my divorce lady, so post separation, what I often see is the post separation abuse, and those tactics and techniques amp up.
Yes.
And the more control the abuser feels like they're losing,
Mhm.
the more they will try to control. So I'll tell my clients, yeah, this is where boundaries are going to take a long time, because you'll shut one door and they'll go through the side door, and then you shut the side door and they go through their side door, and then you shut that door and they go through the back door. You shut the back door and they go through the window. Like, you are constantly trying to,
It's like whack-a-mole.
oh my gosh. And it can feel so exhausting and so frustrating. But I didn't know this. And I literally thought I was going to lose my freaking mind going through this. And so I think the experience, not only in the relationship, but then the experience of gaslighting and abuse, once you separate, once they know you're done, it gets worse in most cases.
For a
In
number of
most cases.
reasons, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's because they're trying to do image management, right, and try to make you look like the bad guy, whether it's because they're more on the personality disorder side of things and have maybe true narcissistic personality disorder, or very, very, very high narcissism. And so they're trying to keep you as part of their supply. The reasons can vary, but I mean, almost every time.
Honestly,
Not every time,
almost
but like almost every time. Yes.
0.9% of the time.
Right.
The odds of that not happening are so rare in my work. So I usually just say, let's prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
Yep.
But when you're more aware, and this is why I love your work and how you're always like, be the gaslighting expert, because the more you're aware of what has been happening, then you really can create more safety for you. It doesn't mean that they'll stop necessarily. In fact, unfortunately, most of the time, then they start attacking the children. There's children involved. And that's a whole other topic, because that's painful as hell. But
Yes, it is.
but you get to create a little bit more distance. And I'll speak for myself. The more of an expert I became in a lot of this stuff, I can look at what is happening on the other side of the street, those bombs that are getting thrown over, and it's just like comical. It's like, oh, okay, nice try. Because I have removed myself from that so far.
Yes.
Because I can see it now coming a mile away.
Yes.
Where early on it was still catching me off guard.
Right.
Blew up in my face.
Right. You know, it's funny that you say that, because I don't think I had really put this together for myself. But a couple years ago, like when Dr. Ramani first started becoming big, I did a continuing education thing by listening to doing one of her courses or whatever. Not her full-on course, but one of her smaller like classes. And anyways, the point of it was, she was talking about betrayal trauma, and she was talking about not specifically gaslighting, the kind of whole Venn diagram, if you will, like narcissism, gaslighting, and betrayal trauma and all the things. And she was talking about, yes, we have to deal with the trauma, but what we really need to be aware of as wellness professionals is that a big part of people healing is the psychoeducation. And that's when I doubled down on my work and was like, okay, well, she's like the expert. Like, I want to grow up and be her someday, like the thing, right? And I felt so validated by that, because that's what I had believed for so long, because that's what I had seen in my own life. And I've had so many clients tell me that psychoeducation piece was the missing piece for them to get the clarity that they needed and then feel more empowered. And I feel like for our circling back around to this validation piece, I feel like that can be really, really validating for our clients, because if all we're missing is some psychoeducation, then we're not broken. It's not our fault. It's not like all of these things I just didn't know. I
Right.
was just missing information, and I can get that information, which
Yeah.
again, I can't stop the bombs in your analogy. You can't stop the bombs from being thrown. But if I have that information, I can know whether or not a bomb is likely to come, what time
Mhm.
they usually come, and all of those types of things. And I can at least protect myself instead of getting
Exactly.
hit and shook by them every dang time.
Exactly. Exactly.
Is it ideal? No. Is it a heck of a lot better? Yes. Can we move into post-traumatic growth if we stop getting hit all the dang time? Yes. And that's the difference.
Yes.
So it is important, right? Like we treat these things not as a exercise in shame of where did I mess up, but an exercise of empowerment of where can I inform myself more.
Yes. Exactly.
Even when we turn inward, or especially when we turn inward. Like,
Mhm.
I'm thinking of your rope analogy. And to me, I'm thinking of, I watched too many like spy movies and all the different things. I'm thinking of like a rope that's not benign. It's not just laying there. It's like a rope that is like attached to something. And if you step on it, that's what activates it. And then it gets coiled around your neck. Right. So it's like we're stepping on these ropes and then they get coiled around us and we don't really understand why we stepped on it. Like, we didn't even know that we had to be aware of stepping on ropes. Well, now that we're aware that, well, we shouldn't step on ropes, but we don't know why we do. So that's a level, right? So now we got to figure out, well, why am I stepping on these ropes and I didn't even know it? Because that's how we avoid the ropes moving forward.
Yes. Exactly. All right, everyone, here's where I'm going to pause. First, I want to invite you to take a breath. Take a breath with me. Place your feet on the floor if they aren't already. Look around your space that you're in right now, even if you're driving, and name 5 things that you see, 5 colors. Notice the sounds, notice the smells. Notice one place in your body that feels neutral right now. If you can, place your hand on your heart and let yourself know that you're safe in this moment. Sometimes these conversations can be activating. They can bring up a lot, which is why I am splitting this episode that Sarah and I recorded into 2 parts. So we're going to get into self-gaslighting next week. But right now, just want to validate what we've been talking about. We've named the ropes. Some of these gaslighting behaviors that you experience in the relationship, noticing how easy it is for us to step on them or to pick them up or to recognize they're wrapped around our neck and we don't even realize it. Your awareness today, be mindful to not let it take you to shame, the I should have known, or I stayed way too long in that entanglement. If your body is buzzing, that is okay. Remember, you're not behind in any of this work. It takes time to learn how to stop picking up those ropes. So between now and next week, I want to encourage you to stay curious, stay kind with yourself. No fixing, no forcing, just notice. We will pick up right at self-gaslighting next time. And I'm going to offer you a couple journal prompts to help increase the self-awareness between now and next week. You can do all of these. I'll put them in the show notes as well, or just ones that resonate with you. You can give short answers or long answers, whatever you want, however you want to use this to work with you. One journal prompt to consider is, when did I notice a rope this week? What was happening? Where did I feel it in my body? That need to pick it up, or when I realized I had picked it up, and what did I then do next? That's number 1. The next journal prompt to consider is, what rope do I most often pick up? Maybe management, minimization, staying in victim, chaos, conflict, confusion, reality challenges. So maybe we're continuing to seek answers from your ex, or DARVO. Which one are we picking up most often? And one more to consider, when I picked up the rope, what was I trying to protect? My kids, my image, my safety, my peace, my money, my nervous system. Name it with compassion. Those 3 questions will be in the show notes. And next week, we will talk about self-gaslighting. We will name it clearly. We're going to spot the should traps. I think next week is going to really help you identify where you might be self-gaslighting and how you can step out of those patterns as well. And when you do, you really are creating more freedom and more choice in your life. Because, as always, you are the chooser in your life and you get to create the life that you want because you can. Take care, everybody.